Hello, everybody. It's me again, Bokang, Modise. We're still talking the attributes of independent on the independent board of directors, and today we're going to have a special one. We're going to talk to one of the ladies within internal audit. Obviously, we know that this show is particularly made to be able to enhance our own knowledge, share skills, and be able to meet other important people. Some of the time that those are more learned than ourselves, they can be able to give us one or two things. But you know what? I've done the introduction. Now let's take it easy and cool. I'm going to introduce you to one of the lady. Her name is Matlhogonolo. I hope she's ready. Matlhogonolo, how are you?
I am well, and you
I am
in the
great.
dark.
Obviously, we're trying to keep it like that, the dark continent. It's a good thing, at least both of you, me and you are dark. We were born in the dark, so we are adapting there. So how are you
It's
today? I hope you
true.
had a wonderful day beside the darkness.
Besides the darkness, I had a wonderful day.
Awesome, awesome.
Long day, you know how audit is, but wonderful still.
You know what? One day we need to have a show and discuss to say, are we supposed to have a long day as internal auditors or what? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because somebody need to really look at this. Sometimes we get
It,
addicted to this thing, and too much of a good thing is bad, isn't it?
I was actually saying it's more of the addiction of the fast life.
So
So
we enjoy
yeah,
it. Yeah.
so
No,
we are
welcome,
enjoying.
ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We are extremely privileged to have you here with us. Matlhogonolo audiences is going to be the one of the third ladies. You remember last time we did discuss with you at the Gentleman on Part 1 and 2 when we were talking about this very same topic of attributes. Now we brought the softer side,
Hey, the
which
rose
is
among the thorn.
the rose among the thorn or the thorn among the rose. Let's find out after this. Maybe before we even go any further, please tell us about yourself, my lady.
Oh, you've introduced me. My name is Matlhogonolo. I'm actually known as Tlhogi, it's short for Tlhogi. Setloholo sa ntlha sa kwa Matlaisane, the only granddaughter wa kwa
Are you
Matlaisane.
serious? Mhm.
Yes.
So they must bring all the talent and then stack them in one human being. Ah, your ancestors have
Yes.
a
So
thing
I'm
going on,
used
right?
to the rose among the thorn
Oh,
because
okay.
I'm the only granddaughter in that family.
Uh-huh.
I'm an auditor. I've been an auditor since 2007.
All right.
I'm currently the senior auditor. So I love audit, clearly.
All right. All right. Yeah. You know what? Before you even continue about your love of audit, when did it start? Was it love at first sight? Or you are one of those people who were like born to be auditors? Mm,
It was never love at first sight. Let me tell
okay.
you, when I
Are you
studied at
serious? Are
University
you
of
serious?
Pretoria.
Have you ever told somebody that, you know what, you were not my real first choice, but you know what, it is what it is?
I guess got to be honest, right?
Honestly, confess, it's true.
Yes. It was
Yeah.
never my soulmate. It was
Mhm.
never ever my soulmate. I discovered internal audit during, we had those guidance periods.
Mhm.
And the way the guidance teacher presented it was like, okay, it's fun. Yes, auditors wear blue and white and gray, but the fun part is you'll travel all over.
All right.
And I was like, okay, I'm doing this for the travel. Didn't realize that, as you grow, you outgrow some things
Mhm.
because I still travel, but I still love
Mhm.
audit despite the travel. So I
Yeah.
was only convinced by the guidance teacher because of the travel. Then I applied
Mhm.
to the University of Pretoria and
Okay.
they took me. I did not even apply to any other university. So I
Oh,
was,
yeah.
yes. And I had only on my application, I did not even have a second choice.
Are you
I'm a
serious?
champion.
You know what? You are some of those people that were born for internal. You didn't know it yet, but now, later
I did it.
on, you realize. And guess what? Load shedding found me as well. And then
I
it escaped me a bit.
privileges, privileges.
We all live in the same world. You can see that. Yeah. So we're
Yes.
happy. Now this person introduced you internal audit to say you'll be traveling, you'll be seeing people and doing all of those. And then you got into it. So when you're in UP, what was happening? Were you feeling that, you know what, this is the thing to do to get to the travelings?
So in UP, I had a balanced life. Let's call it a balanced life.
Well,
So
balance according to an 18-year-old, okay? All
yes.
right.
So in UP, I knew what I wanted. I also knew where I come from because from my family background, I couldn't afford to fail.
Oh,
So
yes.
I did it to show that despite the balanced life, I love audit, I still passed and
Yeah.
did it on record time. So,
So it was in the blood. I want to imagine the balanced life had to do with balancing your legs and balancing your movement in other places, right? Like all of us
yes,
18-year-olds. And besides, you
as
were
an
in the capital
8-year-old,
city. We don't want to know. We don't want to know what was happening there. But you know what?
at least I
We're
did
so
not
happy.
come back with a degree with two eyes. Eh? So that's all that matters.
You didn't come with a birth certificate.
No,
You
I
came with a
came back
real
with a
certificate.
graduation certificate. So
All right,
that's what
that is
counts.
awesome. Yeah. You know what? We are so excited and we are happy that the traveling caught you. And then we hope that definitely you're gonna get traveling. If there's one thing that has to do with audit, I believe whoever is presenting, you will know all those four corners of the hotels back and
I
forth.
know.
But we're happy to have got you into our midst. And definitely, I'm sure that today the discussion we're going to take, the audience will see that maybe it was the right universe bringing things together for you to actually end up here. So we are happy.
Yes,
We have one more auditor who loves audit. Is our man.
yes,
So, Matlhogonolo,
definitely. A
tell
career
me.
auditor, they call us.
Definitely, definitely. So I want to ask you one thing, right? You know, at everywhere you love audit, and we know when it gets to governance, is one of our three pillars that we always talk to, and we
Yes.
have also had many things. A fish rots from the head when it talks to
Mm.
governance. So if we don't get the clear governance and all of those key things that we need to do, as internal auditors, we need to show that alarm that have to be shown. What is your view about the importance of the board, just beside them governing, maybe the way they govern, and how important is the board? Can we live without a board in any organization?
No, we can't leave the board. We can't live without the board because basically the board is the oversight. So they are supposed to be the principals of organizations and be the oversight and not participate in management activities because we've
Okay, the
seen sometimes,
independence.
yeah, we've seen sometimes boards also interfere. So I
Okay,
think that's why now the question is, are they important? Yes, they are very important. It's just that they need to know what are
yeah,
their
yeah,
responsibilities in terms of governance, and their main responsibilities is the oversight and not in their daily activities of management. So they need to cross that line and be independent. And I'm sure when they have learned to be like that, then we will not have this question of do we need the board or do we not need the
not.
board?
Yeah, yeah. So you are saying they need to check that line between interference and intervention. So it's very
Yes,
important for you to know
very
your,
important.
yeah.
And
And
it's
I
easy
think
to cross the line.
yeah, you played
It's
it, huh?
very easy to cross the line, yes. Because
Yeah.
you can imagine when you have given somebody a task to do and they don't do it.
Yes.
Sometimes it's easier for yourself to do it. But
Then you
then,
get excited. Yeah.
yes, but that's not what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, because now you cannot prove yourself to that independent view, which we need
Yes.
the board to be able to do. I think one of our guests was talking earlier about the theory that governs, I think it's the agency theory that he spoke to say
Yeah.
that the board is some sort of maybe a messenger, if I may use that word, where the
Yes.
owners and the stakeholders put them there to say, you know what, I want you to do one, two, three, four, five. And the key
Mm.
things is oversight. So when we start mingling in small businesses, because nothing is actually perfect, even if you do it yourself. So
Mm.
it takes away that opportunity for you to give the oversight
Yes.
that we so much need from the Learned board members, right? So I
Yes.
think for
And
what I hear from you, they need to be able to know their
draw the
place.
And
Use
I like
that.
the way that you used messengers, but also
Mm.
maybe let me add another word. They need to be trusted messengers because when you vote for a board member, you will put them there as stakeholders that you trust in that they will run and do their duties well.
Yes. So they need to create trust. So I hear the two things. They need to be independent, they need to be trustworthy. I want to believe trustworthy has to do with their ethics and all of
Yes,
those related issues about transparencies. What do you think
yes,
about the stakeholders knowing what the board does? Meaning just not one report on the annual financials or the
yeah.
annual report, or just once in a while public
Mm.
information that has been sent. How deep are we supposed to know what the board
You
is
know,
doing?
the one of the duties of the board is they've been placed there by stakeholders. And what usually happens is we only see them in the annual report. On, but it's very important for them to be listeners to what these people who have placed them there want.
Mhm,
So it should not be a one-way road
mhm,
because what usually happens is when the board is in positions, then they don't listen to the people who have placed them there anymore
mhm.
because also the board must be able to have some measurement of their success. Their
Okay.
success can't only be on on the
Their own
strategy.
observation, right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
It can't
yeah.
only be on that only, but also how happy if there was something like a happy letter from
Mm.
the from the outside stakeholders who would
The
say,
happiness
yeah,
index.
and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, you can't listen to every little thing, but
Mhm.
they need to be that interaction. You can't have the board appearing only once in an annual report
Yeah.
saying the financials are good, or.
Yeah.
That's actually not sufficient.
Enough, right?
So
Yeah.
have we need to come to a point where boards are also listeners and not
Yeah.
just so in the
Just
oversight.
Mhm.
Yes, because right now what's happening is they're not listening. They are. That's why we always
Telling.
think they are after their own agendas. and
Yeah, which is
it's
something we
only
don't want. You know what? I want to drive you a bit to something that is quite practical when it gets to the accountability, particularly. I think you
yes,
mentioned something about independence, which is clear we want to know. Independence is where they can be able to manage where are they sitting, are they interfering or are they intervening, which is the important
yes,
thing that they need to be able to understand. Number two, if I hear you, is transparency. We need to know what they're doing. They
mm,
shouldn't be doing their own things and accepting whatever that needed to be done. But I want to
yes,
ask you one thing. There's somebody who say we get the leader that we deserve, in a way. I think
yeah.
they're trying to send a message to say accountability must be driven by us, the stakeholders. How do you think, as stakeholders of any board out there, whether it's corporate board, whether it's public sector board, whether it's even our board in the institute or other institute whatsoever, when it gets to accountability, what do you think members must do? What do you think the society must do to keep them to the bar, if I may use that word?
I think the most accessible interaction with them with the board is the AGMs. Do we even attend the AGMs so that we can ask this very board questions and make them account? Or we are complaining at the back. When you are,
Mm.
I always say there's no use complaining, but we are a society that just complains without even
Doing
implementing
anything.
doing anything, and we expect change in the
Yeah.
process, and
And
that's highly
somebody must
impossible.
do it for us. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
the only time that you will get to meet this particular board is
Mhm.
when they are reporting to us in the AGM. But you will
Mhm.
find that in the AGMs, we don't even form a quorum.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Of the
So
stakeholders, yeah.
as the stakeholders, and
Mm.
that's where we need to be asking questions, appropriate questions.
Hmm.
So
On
we
record. Mm.
so you are right, we deserve whatever comes our way.
I love. Are you saying we deserve
And
load
I'm saying
shedding? Stop it.
and I'm saying we, because it can be them, it should be united, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's a
We
front,
all
if it's a
play our
united
part in
front,
that.
that's another discussion for another day. But there must be some unity.
That is
And
happening.
yes, and it starts at attending these AGMs and asking
Mhm.
questions, being prepared, looking at the agendas, looking at the past meetings. What did they promise us? Can
Voting for the solutions and all of
yes,
those. Yeah.
can we make them account, or is it just the okay? Obviously, they will take advantage knowing that we are not making them account.
Yes.
So you will see an item that was discussed 3 years ago still appearing, and it's because we are also not making them account.
All right.
So yeah,
You know,
I agree with you.
let's talk about family business now. Let's leave
Yeah,
everybody else's out. Let's talk about the Institute of Internal Auditors, South Africa. Right.
yes,
I think if I can speak about the history of audit in South Africa, it might take a bit of time. But now, if you look at the current situation that is happening, I don't know if it's a good or bad, depending on your perspective,
mm.
especially when you hear people asking the question, where were internal auditors when things happen? Why are we not knowing anything about them? How come load shedding is there when ESCOM have an army of internal auditors? How do you feel about that question? Because you love internal audit, so you say.
I always teach people about the three lines of defense.
Okay.
It's surprising that they people tackle the third line that gives assurance, but there is, and I
Reasonable
bring it.
assurance.
Yes, and I always bring it home that there is management that is paid a salary every month
Okay.
to for the daily activities. So
And
why
paid
would
more than auditors, am I at?
paid more than auditors? Of course, because with auditors it's take it or leave it type of situation. I I think the IRA needs to do something about the salaries and should.
Obviously, sir, there must be some work that needs to be done here, definitely. Yeah.
I think so because auditors now are moving into business, which is good. It just shows that audit is a training ground for business. But if you
Yeah.
ask these auditors why they're moving into business, they'll tell you for the money, and I don't blame
Yes.
them. The Ramaphosa
Yes.
economy is not so friendly. So
Yeah. So it looks like it's tough for everyone. That's why, but I think, you know what, when we talk about our contribution to society, obviously there have been many, many civilizations passing and going. Some of
yeah,
them we don't even know about them. And we know in many times, a lot of civilization has been taken down by governance. If you look what is happening now in our continent, in these coups that are happening
mm,
everywhere, the first thing that they are fighting is governance. You go on the social media, you find people having dollars, euros in suitcases, the money that
yes,
we'll never be able to see. So it's something that
Palapala.
shows to say, yeah, it's something that shows that governance is a big issue, right?
It's
And when you're working about those sort of things, it's a sensitive matter. And when you
yeah,
say people will pass the first line, the second line, then they hit the third line, it's something that happens because blame games go a lot. When you fail, we're always
yes,
looking for somebody to blame. And most of the time, we blame the weak and the
yes,
intentional weak, if I may add, because we've got all organizations these days particularly public sector, have internal auditors. But you have to look at the organization to say, what type of an auditor do they have? What type of functions do they have? And what type of quality is happening there? So those sort of things, you will find out that it's systematic weaknesses that are put into place. Just put
Yeah.
it there for the sake of compliance. Get any Jack and Jill, throw them there, and then tick the box. Whatever
I think,
happens, happens.
and it's the saddest thing because that's what put the career under disrepute.
Mhm.
If you are going to put any Tom, Dick, and Harry there, and yeah, it's said, and I hope one day the institute will do something about it. I don't know what, because that's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
will take
You know,
years
yeah.
and generations, but it needs to
Yeah,
be
I
rectified.
hope it doesn't take so. Obviously, with the bright minds as yourselves, we have to be more optimistic than that.
Of
But,
course.
but you know what? You are taking me to another question that I wanted to discuss with you quickly. It's about, you know what? What is it that our board, the Institute of Internal Auditors, supposed to be doing, the members that we are going to put there to represent our interest? What is it that they're supposed to do actually to go to the society and show them the value of internal audit and show them this is the internal auditor that we want to see? I know all professions have their own people, even
Yeah.
religion have their own pastors that we end up seeing on the courts and all of those things. We have fake doctors. We've got lawyers that are
Yeah.
doing other things. But now we don't want to talk about those things. Even chartered accountants these days, we see what happens when you look
Mm.
at all of this. But we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about ourselves, internal auditors, our own problems. How do we clear the society and remind them the importance of internal auditors? As the
You
board
know,
member, what do you think we need to do?
what has happened, especially in the recent years, because there's that element of meeting the interest of the shareholders and stakeholders, relevant stakeholders. What has happened is the miseducation by the stakeholders. And I think for the board, there needs to be some maybe re-education, because
Mhm.
there has been something about internal auditors. If you look at, I'm going to be very controversial, but if you look at other institutes and
Controversial
their,
is our name, isn't it?
yes,
That's why we have this show. Let the producer worry about it. Say it like it
I
is.
know. What has happened, if there's a lot of visibility from other institutes,
Mhm,
um now people will say CISA is the head, whilst we are ignoring our very own institute. And these are the questions that needs to be raised by the board of what is happening, because this institute is for members and it needs to run, and people need to know the importance of auditors. And not everybody can be an IT auditor, for example.
mhm.
Not everybody is interested in going to Isaka. So there needs to be that question by the board
Oh, yeah.
as the oversight owners, to say what is happening, how are we educating our stakeholders. So in May every year there's the internal audit month. The
Mhm,
education is happening within us.
mhm.
And
So we are talking to ourselves.
we are talking to ourselves,
Mhm,
but our key stakeholders is the people outside. So as the board of our institute, they need to be asking themselves that question, that what is really happening to our institute, because it's going to be sad in years to come if we continue like that. And also it should not be the board's responsibility only. Let me just
yeah.
clarify, because we're all members of this institute. So we also need to be educating the stakeholders,
Mhm.
because
Society.
yes, and we need to, because we need to be meeting their interests, meeting their
Mhm.
appropriate interest, then they need to know what is this appropriate interest, and that is all in education.
Education, education. You know what? Maybe just to remind myself and wrap up, maybe for the audience to hear, I think from what I hear from you is quite particular. Obviously, I didn't want to ask you the sensitive questions beyond the traveling to say, were you only traveling alone in your dreams to say,
Mm, I was
or
18.
I think that is an adequate question with an adequate answer. You were 18, and we can just imagine what 18-year-old do at that time and point. But you know
I
what?
know. I remember. I don't know if I remember there was. I Let me tell you one of the stories that, yeah, when I was 18.
You went to the freshers' ball.
No, not even. Well, there was this place that sold pastas. It was orange.
Okay.
So I can't remember the name. So we had an allowance, everyday allowance. Out of office you get an allowance.
Yeah.
And in my decision making, I remember we used to buy what was called jam jar. I don't know
Okay.
how old you are. So the jam jar was alcohol, but it was a jar. It was 40 rands the time,
I
and
know
that
it.
was
I
papa.
I
You
know
know
it.
it.
And you've got multiple straws there. Yeah, I know it.
Yes. So
That's Jack.
that was my 18-year-old me. But
No
all
wonder
those are
internal
fun.
audit.
So
No
anything
wonder
to
you're so
say,
creative. I just don't want to. I don't. I don't want to. I don't want to ask you many more deeper things to say who was
but we
there
can
and all.
say that
You know what?
auditors are fun. They mustn't see us talking about governance, risk management, and control and think that that's
We
only
don't
what we
assess
do.
risk. No, I think you're saying
No,
we're only humans after all, isn't it?
of course,
Of course. No,
of
I'm happy.
course.
I knew it today when I have a lady, she will say the way it is and stick it to the point. I think all the points that we have indicated, maybe as a quick
I
wrap
hope the
up.
producer is not embarrassed at our conversation, by the way.
I, I hope not. But you know what? At least that's not our problem. For us, we're looking internal audit. We want to talk to the audience, and we know some people are thinking the way we are thinking. Well, I know a lot of people are thinking particularly the way you are thinking, and I know we've got new 18-year-olds that are coming into the professions now.
Because, and
18-year-olds
then
that are new.
also,
If you are going to be in the audience, forget that
yes.
jack. That thing can cause
And
problems for you.
and my advice to them is enjoy, enjoy,
And
enjoy.
enjoy. Why?
Yes, we
Why?
live once,
But
you know.
yeah. So give us wrap-up words and things that will remember you with, and particularly on our topic talking about the attributes of a good board. Had you had to be a board member, one day hopefully you will be, and then
Of course,
what is it? What is it that you will be able to drive us towards?
I believe in monitoring progress against any objectives um that you have. So, as a future board member, you we always have goals, but we don't monitor the progress of our goals. So I believe that that is very important. And also, when you are strategizing these goals and objectives, obviously they are long and short term goals. But I would I would be a board member that implements like a mechanism for follow up. As auditors, we have what we call follow up
Yes,
also in
the
our parents.
some. Yeah,
Yes, because
yeah.
that's
No,
what
yeah. I'm
from
gonna have to
outside.
cut you. I'm gonna have to cut you.
That's
I
fine.
know we'll speak the whole day, but I want to quickly
Yes.
thank you for the time that you had. And then we're still privileged to have you, Matlhogonolo. And we are very
Thank you.
privileged and happy to have you. And have a wonderful day. Ne?
You too, then. Thank you.